Representative Jackson, would you please say a word of prayer for us? Thank you.
Yeah. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day, Lord. We ask for your wisdom, your guidance as you lead and guide us through this process that we have to do, Father. We depend on you, and we give you the praise for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. If you'll introduce yourself and then let's get started.
My name is Mark Smith, and I'm chairman of the Savannah, Georgia Convention Center Authority, which is the new name we're operating on due to the legislation last year. And I've been chairman, I guess, about a dozen years or so, but have been on the authority since its inception in the mid-'90s. So I've seen it from the very conceptual stages to where we are today. And we are so pleased to be before you today. I wanted to introduce Sherry Spinks, who's our general manager. As you probably know, we are managed by the Georgia World Congress Center. We made that change about 6 years ago, and so we keep all the money local and keep it within the state entities, all of our management fees and costs and everything. So first, I'd like to thank you for the $23 million that's already been appropriated for this expansion project. That's come in the 17, 18, and 19 sessions, and we've been busy at work down in Savannah, Chatham, and designing conceptually the building, and then moving on into engineering and working drawings, and going through the process of selecting a contractor, which we did about 22 months ago. We selected a contractor. We have had the benefit of a complete set of working drawings for the last year or so, and we've been able to really hone in on pricing and bidding and everything. And so we have put the $23 million to good use, and we've begun some preliminary utilities relocation and that sort of thing, which was accounted for in that money. And so now we are ready to break ground, and we would really appreciate your consideration in breaking ground this year before construction pricing takes another spiral upward, and which we're all live in fear of all the time. But right now we have good numbers, and we would like to move forward. I would like to call your attention to, I think it's the third page in. It shows the amount of, I guess it's the fourth page. The fourth page in shows the amount of private or local, I'm sorry, not private, but local investment in this building. This project originally started as a partnership with the state of Georgia and Chatham County, with Chatham County funding about 3/4 of the initial cost, and then over the years the county has continued to invest into this project and facilities. So you can see Chatham County has almost $159 million of local money in the project, and the state is with the $23 million that's come in over the last 3 years is at $61 million. The process we're talking about, so it's been about 3/4 local and 1/4 state, and as we go through this next round of funding for the expansion, it will shift to about twice as much state as local money, but it seems like the state is getting a lot of leverage for its investment with the local commitment that's there and continues to be there. We decided to impose a 1% hotel motel tax on ourselves back in the early 90s, and that money has covered all the operating deficit and has allowed us to cover all of our capital needs and reserve for a roof and carpet and all of these kinds of things, so that when there's a capital issue, we've had it fully funded and ready to go with the replacement and repair and the upgrade that's required with a building of this nature. So I would, this project is, if you look, let's see now, page, Okay, the 6-page in.
I want you to clarify something.
Yes, ma'am.
Clarify the amount the state has put in here. Of course, when I add in the state, I get a different thing than you.
We started with the 18 million back in 1993, which Zell Miller appropriated, and that was matched with 57 million of local dollars. Then later expanded
Okay,
to.
okay, 57 million of 5,700. Okay.
No, the up at the on the left hand side is the local, and we
Okay.
started with 55 million, and then we increased it with a special SPLOST by another
Okay.
amount. And then the county paid for running all the water and sewer over there. That was another 5 million, and that's the utilities expansion that you see there. The loop road, all of that's local dollars.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And then you can see down at the bottom of $55 million of hotel motel tax over the last 25 years has gone into the project as well. That's directly to the authority, to the state authority, to cover all the operating deficits and all the capital reserve funds and capital improvements that have been made to the building.
Any questions?
Let me just mention that we generate a lot of hotel sales, and this expansion will generate quite a bit. And so there's nothing that generates more taxes than a hotel. I mean, the state imposed a $5 per room tax some years ago, and so you're getting a strong benefit from that, in addition to the state sales tax, as well as the money that it generates for local. The total is of $13.5 million for state and local taxes generated just from the project as is, and of course this expansion will double the size of the exhibit hall and increase with a second ballroom, and generate additional jobs and additional tax revenue. This expansion will allow us to have 2 conventions occurring simultaneously, like the Georgia World Congress Center enjoys, and so we view ourselves in the line of the Georgia World Congress Center. They've had 4 major expansions since the building was originally built. This building was designed to be expanded. We knew this day would come, and thankfully we're there, and we're ready to move from being 155th largest convention center in the country to the 70th. And we feel it goes a long way towards paying for itself and generating economic activity throughout the state and generating taxes and jobs, and that's what we're about here.
Representative Gilliard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly, I think one of the things that I'm really excited about is the level of economic development and hospitality being one of the fortes. What type of traffic has, because of the expansion, has it drawn for Savannah? Because I think people get the perception that it's there, but it draws, 16 million tourists have come into Savannah, but the jobs.
Sure, there are 28,000 jobs now in Chatham County that are related to the tourism industry. This is a tremendous success story. Just a few years ago, we had maybe 4 or 5 million people coming to Savannah. Now there's 15, 16 million people. If you think about it, the tourism industry is the one industry, and I've had this personally. I'm in the hotel business in Savannah. We've had one employee who started as a dishwasher and worked his way up to general manager. You can't go to the hospital and start in the cafeteria and work your way up to doctor, and nor can you in the school system start at a maintenance man and work your way up to school teacher. But in the hospitality business, the sky's the limit. You can you can start low and end up in a very, very good position. And we have a lot of case studies that show and have documented the number of people that have been able to achieve that level of growth and personal growth.
Madam Chair, may I add one more? I've met some of those individuals, and one of the most impressive was a young man that went to Groves High School that was a houseman and worked in the industry, and now I heard he's moved from general manager to 2 hotels. And so I just want to thank you. I see the work. A lot of times we don't, but it's adding great value.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, but we didn't get the bond package. Could you tell me what you requested?
The
We
governor.
don't have a copy of the bond request.
The request in the bond package is $70 million for this year.
Okay. And what's the total of the whole project?
The total of the whole project is $275 million, of which 23 has already been funded. So yet to be funded is 252, but it'll take 2.5 years to build this expansion. So if we start with 70 million and break ground in August, then we'll have to have another appropriation in the next section and the next session after that to complete the project and complete the funding over a 3-year course.
What about the interiors and everything, the furniture and all that? You have that covered in your hotel tax?
Well, that's covered in the
bond package too?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? Representative Ridley. And I'm sorry I had to ask you that, but
No.
we didn't get the bond package request.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one question. I don't know if this is the building that we had this discussion about. Is there any marble inside this building?
Marble? No marble.
Okay. It's not this building then. Thank you.
Okay. You will be using Georgia carpet and Georgia floor covering.
Yes, ma'am. And we
All right,
use.
Thank you. Thank you.
We buy Georgia products. Our shrimp is Georgia,
Okay.
and we go from there.
All right. It's sort of an inside joke. All right. Thank you so much. And I've visited Savannah several times, and I can see why people go back.
Yes, ma'am. And I do want to mention this is the number one objective of this Savannah Chatham delegation.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to tell you something. Savannah Chatham delegation had a lot of. We just did one of y'all's number ones, didn't we? Was that not a number one, Carl?
I would concur. The general lady knows what she's
Well, y'all do a good job down there. Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Did the World Congress Center have anything they'd like to say about this?
We support their bond request this year, yes.
All right. Do y'all have anything in the bond request for the World Congress Center?
We need 12 million.
All right.
You would be so kind.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Georgia Rural Water.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Houston. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Members, I'm Jay Matthews with Georgia Rural Water Association. We are an organization that provides training and on-site technical assistance across the state of Georgia. Can you hear me? Okay, too. I got a little blue book. Little brief summary there of all the systems. That's a snapshot of the systems we've helped over the past 12 months. That's just touches on them, some of the things we've done in the communities that you represent across Georgia. Anything from budget analysis to business plans to treatment techniques to infrastructure assessments, anything to enhance or help the water and wastewater systems with their capacity development for treatment, and that's directly tied to economic development for these communities. Without the water and wastewater facilities being in good order, good chances are businesses will not locate there or stay there very long. And we've seen that happen from time to time. We work specifically with systems like Vienna with their Tyson plant to make sure they have the capacity to continue their wastewater treatment there in Vienna, and a litany of systems across the state with just specific wastewater issues tied directly to industry.
I know y'all just helped out the city of recently, and they really are singing your praises, and we appreciate
Right.
what you did for
Yeah,
them.
we get calls daily from systems. They've come to know us and lean on us a lot. We went in there and specifically located a water line that had been leaking. The only way they could find it would be to dig up the Highway 82, and that's not acceptable. So we go in and pinpoint and tell them exactly where to dig, so as to save the highway.
And y'all don't charge the cities for
Don't
this?
charge them. Do not
Okay.
charge. They don't have the resources to do this type of work. We do not charge them.
And that's part of what our appropriations pays for, is
Right.
to do this. And I know up in the several counties in my district that y'all had to come help. Cecil, Georgia had a big problem, and we appreciate y'all helping them.
Right.
I'm sure.
Emergency response, we're big in emergency response for these systems, deploying resources, generators, all times, day and night, for all the activations from Hurricane Michael to Matthew to Irma. It goes on. We've had our fair share of natural disasters over the past few years.
It's Mac Jackson, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. In the blue book, I see on number 10, the city of Tenno. I
Right.
represent Tenno. Sanders, they have been having to buy their water from Sandersville
Right.
for the last maybe 5 years. Is there any help for Tenno?
Yeah, we've been working with them. What we do, we go in and assess their infrastructure, do some leak detection, because when they're buying water, they get hit really hard. That's a hard cost.
That
meter spins.
They're one some of the highest water rates in the
Right.
state.
So first thing we do is look at that master meter, that cash register for that system. When they're buying water from Sandersville, they're going off that meter. And Tenno may not be using all of that water. So we go out and try to find the leaks to slow that cash register down, if you will. And also make sure their residential meters are accurate, to make sure the billing system's accurate and is matching up with that main master meter from Sandersville. End of the day, they should be no more than 10% off at the most. And a lot of times you see 30, 40, 50% difference in what that master meter is saying and what their actual bill revenue is out there. So
One of the-
that's a specific system we're trying to help now.
One of the problems, they can't get their wells online.
Right.
And it's hurting the citizens.
That would be the best thing for them to do to get independent, have their own independent water source, and we'll continue to work with them. But it's a process to get wells back online through a lot of sampling and permitting procedures.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Was he finished?
Have you finished?
Well, I'm answering any questions. We'll be in Chickamauga this week. We'll be in Sonoya next week doing smoke testing. We're doing all kind of infrastructure assessments across the state of Georgia daily. So we're in Somerville, been in Somerville since last week, through the weekend, today, with this PFAS issue. So we touch them all.
And y'all will notice after you do these business plans, if you keep on going, the things they've done, and this is all this year.
Right in that's a snapshot of a 12-month
12
period.
months.
Right.
And
This
the
is what we
treatment
report to
systems.
GFA. We send quarterly reports to GFA each quarter on the work we do specifically for this appropriation, and to give them stacks of paper. I could have loaded your desk up with reams of paper today, and I don't mind sending it electronically to anyone. That's just an example of a business plan for the city of Glenwood, Georgia. We did. They lost their hospital and their school system, and that was the two largest users in the system. So they now have this extra capacity there. We had to go in and redo their budgets, redo their rates, so they could stay sustainable and make their bond payment. That's just one example.
well, if you have any questions about what they do for their money, just look at this thing.
And I'm always available in your districts. If you ever want to call me, you can come on site with us and see the work we do in the field with these. They would love it. The operators in your districts would love to see y'all come out and see what they do in the field every day. They're kind of the unsung heroes, if you will, in the communities. They go about their business every day, and nobody really sees what they do because their stuff's underground, so you don't really see it.
And now, what role do you play when we have an emergency?
I actually go to the State Operations Center at GEMA headquarters, and I'm activated there, and I coordinate all the resources for the water and wastewater systems, from generators to whatever technical needs they need, and I send my crews, my GRDA staff, to these systems to help them on site. So I'm the point person at GEMA on that, and GEMA and the state agencies have been very supportive. They kind of lean on us to provide that assistance out there.
I know y'all provided some generators too back to help us during when we had
I think we deployed,
hurricane.
87 generators or bypass pumps doing Michael, just Michael alone. So that's a lot to keep up with.
Any questions?
I appreciate the consideration. We desperately need, the communities need this restoration of funding to continue our works.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Metropolitan Water Planning.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think you should have a handout for me that looks about like this, maybe without my initials in the top right corner with my notes as you go. First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present today about the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District, which is a mouthful. We were formed by the legislature in 2001, so that mouthful is thank you to all of you. The legislature then knew that the Atlanta region needed to work on water issues collaboratively and not as just cities or counties, because water doesn't follow those lines. So there's a little bit of background. We are 15 counties, 95 cities. We have 26 board members. 16 are elected officials from across the district, and 10 are appointed, 8 from the governor, 2 from the lieutenant governor, 2 from the Speaker of the House. Chair Nash from Gwinnett County is our current chair, and Katie Kirkpatrick from the Metro Chamber is our vice chair. We address water, wastewater, water resource issues through required planning every 5 years, and right now we are at that 5-year update period. I've brought a few handouts for you so you can see more about us. One, in Metro Atlanta, as with much of North Georgia, where our water supply is constrained by 3 things. One, we are really reliant upon surface water. In fact, 98% of our water is from surface water sources. That Stone Mountain that we've all gone to visit is actually underneath Metro Atlanta, so we don't have access to groundwater. We're at the headwaters. Our founding fathers didn't come and see the Chattahoochee River and say, hey, that's a place to put 6 million people. It was, in fact, as we all know, where the train lines came together. So that means we have very small streams. We're reliant upon reservoirs. And then, of course, as we all know, the state of Georgia has frequent droughts. And so those 3 things come together and make us really have to plan about water. We have action items that are put in place in the lower right-hand or the lower left-hand corner of this handout. You can see some of them. We do toilet rebate programs. It's glamorous work. And those action items have to be implemented by every utility in the district, enforced by Georgia Environmental Protection Division, so we work closely with them on all of the action items that we have. That next handout, which looks like this, shows our successes. You can see that we're withdrawing 10% less water across the district, despite the fact that we have 1.3 million more people. I'll highlight, if you think about the economic growth since the district was formed in 2000, Georgia's place for business. This is a great story. Yes, ma'am.
Did y'all have to present any of this when we had the water wars?
Oh, what a great question. In fact, you'll notice that these ended in 2013. We were, in fact, part of the Supreme Court case helping defend Georgia. And that case, I worked on it in 2015-16. All of the data ended in 13. So every public presentation I give, our data end in 2013. The Metro Water District and the work of this legislature really pushed Georgia forward in the Supreme Court case. And I've put on the last page of your handout, not the actual brochure, but the last page are my favorite quotes from the Supreme Court ruling in December, where the special master has sent his recommendation back to the court itself. It was a very good recommendation, and we were that successful because the legislature did all sorts of great things over the years. Metro Water District, State Water Stewardship Act, work in Southwest Georgia on agricultural efficiency, all these things together helped make us successful. So yes, ma'am, we were in fact involved in the water wars. My husband might have liked a little bit of me back in 2016, but it was all good because we're in a good spot. It's not just me, by the way, that says we're great. This is the Brookings Institute. You'll see we're number 96 in the country, which is not to say we're number 96 in the country. I wouldn't have that as a handout. We are 5th best in the country on per capita per day water use, which is really impressive stat when you start thinking about what we're doing compared to everybody else. So that brings me to funding, and you should have a chart in your handout with funding. We, as I said, were formed in 2001 by the legislature. We are a state entity. We've gotten funding every year from the legislature. Typically, our base funding is $250,000. You'll see on that handout in 2015, it increased to $750,000. That's because it was a plan update year. And then 2019, of course, with the budget from last year, we had $242,000. So our funding is not just state legislature based, though. We also get local dues from the 15 counties, cities, and utilities across the district. And you'll see in that third column what those local dues totaled. It's on a per capita basis across the district. We know that we're going into plan update this year. It's actually started. And so you can see that our local dues increased to $1.2 million this past year in order to prepare for that plan update. So the next page covers what that funding addresses. You can see when we get $250,000 every year from the state, that's what I call the base funding. It has items A through J listed, but to put it in normal speak, when the legislature formed us, they told us we had to have board meetings, so we do have our board come together and talk about policy for water across the district. We have technical advisory committees, which are utility directors, so that when we put things in place that every utility has to implement, they have a voice in that. We have basin advisory committees, which are citizens across the 16 counties and beyond. We actually have members that come from Columbus or from upstream of us to become part of our basin advisory committee. They meet quarterly and talk about issues that affect them. We deal with policy issues that cross district boundaries. And so in some cases, we've actually reached out to our compatriot water planning councils to talk about things that might cross that boundary line. We meet with the other regional water planning councils regularly to make sure that what we're doing in the district makes sense from a state perspective. And then every 5 years, we do a plan update, which is also legislatively required. And this looks at everything from water demand projections to wastewater needs, water resource needs. And again, what goes into that plan as an action item has to be implemented by the utilities. So it's a very rigorous process we have going in the district. The district is the only one of the state water planning councils that has staff and has local dues. Like I said, it creates 3/4 of our income for our work every day. All right, questions about where our funding goes?
Oh, okay. We had some questions. I forgot.
I've just a question about your chart here. Metro Atlanta water withdrawal over time on page 2 there. In the same period of time from on this chart from say 1999 to 2013, population grew 25 to 27.5%, and water usage, I guess withdrawal would be the same as water usage, 15 to 16.5% reduction. That's now what do you know what's happened since in the last 7 years as far as approximate population and water withdrawal? Do you have any idea?
Sure, and again, the reason the data stop in 2013
Sure.
that we're presenting is because of the Supreme Court case. We have looked at them through 2018, which is our most recent year in which we have a full data set. We should have 2019 completed in about June. And it's really been the same. So we're still seeing that same increase in water efficiency. The one thing I'll say is our withdrawals are different than our use. And that's true for any municipal system because we return, we do glamorous things as human beings and we flush our toilets and that water goes back to the system. And so our use is that withdrawal minus what's returned. In all cases, though, our statistics are amazing in the fact that we've driven down water use and driven down water withdrawals.
But this would be withdrawal. The first
one is withdrawals.
So there's nothing subtracted. The returned water is not subtracted from. What do you attribute that? How was that accomplished as far as?
So it's several things. The number one thing I attribute it to is the fact that when the district was formed, the more water you used as an individual, as a resident, the cheaper it got over time. And what we require in the district is the more you use, the more you pay, which ends up sending that price signal to people. I tell a story about my neighbor across the street. I manage a 12-home homeowners association. I'm the treasurer because I thought, piece of cake. How hard is it to be the treasurer? We got in an all-out battle on water use and watering that strip of land in our homeowners association. And I lost until our water bill came. And our first water bill was $800 for 12 homes. And the community could do that math. And suddenly we were watering only when needed. It is that price point. It is the toilet rebate program. We've replaced 133,000 toilets over the district. That's conservative, which saves about 1 billion gallons a year. All these little things put together, along with State Water Stewardship Act. That act means we can't buy water wasting toilets across the state anymore, which means our efficiency is going up, which means every time you flush the toilet, whether you want to or not, you're saving water. So it's all these things put together that get us that story. Got to watch me, I give long answers.
Representative Gilliard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. Every year the state has contributed about how much? Maybe about 250,000?
Yes, sir.
So you get to that 5th year and you're going to do the mandate, the update, and you said that it's extensive. Are those services, they are contracted or is it internal? Do you do?
Great question. So last time we did the plan update, it was 90% contracted out. And some of it includes like water demand projection updates, which is, it's kind of funny when you have decreasing water demands, it's actually a heavy lift to think about where we need to be in 2050 because you have you have to balance the growth of the region versus the demands. So yes, a good piece of it was contracted out last time. We expect the same to be true this time. We will be doing some of that work in-house as staff. We've gotten to be a lot smarter since the last plan update, but we've already accounted for that in the plan update scope so that we're building on our internal knowledge base and leveraging consultants when needed.
So what percentage would you say would be either in-source or outsource?
I would say this go round, it's probably 50-50.
Okay. And then you were talking about, dues are important. That's between the dues and between what the state does, and what are the sources of revenue?
Those are the two sources of revenue. So it's dues and whatever comes through the legislature or through state funding. Occasionally over the years, GFA has been able to support us, but like everyone, they have a tight budget year, so we don't anticipate that being an option this year. We have done special projects. So for instance, right now we're doing a source water assessment program. You'll see that little footnote underneath the chart, which is looking at every surface water intake in the district and what the risks to that intake are. So we sometimes have separate funding for special projects, but the two main sources still are district dues and state funding.
Thank you so much.
Do y'all get calls from other counties outside this area?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. One of the reasons why I included that little pamphlet at the end is we have all sorts of handouts, fog, don't put your fats, oils, and grease down the sink, do-it-yourself household water assessment. I think you have a water conservation handout in front of you. We partnered with UGA on a water-wise landscape guide. All of these brochures that we have, we obviously share with our utilities across the district, but beyond that, we share them with utilities across the state. We will print them for utilities across the state. We have a policy in which we can print any of our brochures for them. We also do a lot of drought work. So for those of you that were maybe paying attention to the fact that it stopped raining in July, it started raining again, thank goodness, in October. There was a flash drought, and a lot of our drought materials get used by others across the state. Griffin, for example, was calling on us to use our drought materials in this last flash drought. We like to support our utilities statewide. In all things, beyond that, by the way, we're doing a biosolids study right now, partnering with GFA. Biosolids is when you do a wastewater treatment plant, that gross sludge that ends up at the end of that process you have to dispose of. Landfills have raised rates significantly in the last year because of a collapse. And so we're working with GFA on a strategy for biosolids disposal that will benefit not just Metro Water District utilities, but also utilities across the state.
Morris.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Can you tell me, what are we doing, or maybe what is our plan for storage capacity, moving additional storage capacity? We're about to hit another period. As you know, my district's Forsyth County, Lake Lanier. Lake is 2.9 feet above full pool right now. And, those are the greatest 3 feet that exist in that entire lake, is that top 3 feet, right? So right now, like we've done, I don't know if it was this year or last year, we had a lot of excess. So what are we going to do moving forward in terms of being able to store that excess, product that we have?
Great question. So one of the things that the plan update has scoped in it is resilience, because we get a lot of rainfall in Georgia. It's just not every year. And those of you, all of us who were here in 6, 7, 8, 9, It can cause problems when Lake Lanier in particular is dropping. Lake Lanier, unfortunately for us and fortunately for us, is run by the Army Corps of Engineers, so we aren't able to change its operating manual. In fact, they just updated it 2015. It's the source of another lawsuit, so even though, knock on wood, we're in the home stretch on Supreme Court, there are 2 other lawsuits going. We have talked to them about raising Lanier, storing some of that water, but it's, a managed, difficult system. So one of the things we're looking at the district is what that next step is for resilience here. Like, how do we think about storing more water, maybe without building more reservoirs, maybe with building more reservoirs, so that we can weather a 7-year drought? And here's the thing, like, I'm a geek of an engineer. I went and looked at tree ring records. Tree ring records show that we had 7-year droughts frequently in Metro Atlanta, as much as 20-year droughts. So that 6, 7, 8, 9 drought is a blip on the radar compared to a 20-year drought. So we're starting to think about what does that look like. One of the things on my radar, honestly, is quarries. They're already built reservoirs that, yes, they won't be finished until 50 years, 100 years from now. But if we can start thinking about what that looks like as a water supply for Metro, it's a hole that's already in the ground with all of the consequences already built into it. We just need to flip it to water supply. So it's like piecing together all these different little pieces to get to a resilient water supply. Lake Lanier is a challenge, but I haven't given up hope. Maybe one day in Congress in DC, we can get Alabama and Georgia to agree, and Florida, that we should operate Lake Lanier differently. Until that day, we'll just keep working.
Thank you.
In the 2021 budget, you were cut out. How do you plan on continuing this work without the funds?
Painfully, is that the way I'm supposed to answer the question?
No.
I mean, the truth of the matter is we desperately need state funding. We're a state entity that need both our base funding and our plan update funding. We do have another water revenue source, which is local dues. And ultimately, that is what would happen, is we would raise local dues. But I'll point out to you that those local dues were already raised once in order to get us to this point of a plan update.
Yeah.
So it'll be at the detriment of our local entities that would then have to kick in another amount.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate all your work on the water warrants.
Thank you. And I'll say, water is the limiting resource for our economic growth, not just Metro, but ag. And working together, we can start tackling that, but we need to start tackling that. The Supreme Court, because it is moving in our favor, allows this space to start thinking strategically again. But we need the funding to start thinking strategically again. So thank you all for your consideration.
Any questions? Thank you, and thank you so much. I think that concludes all the people we have for today on the schedule, and thank you so much for coming. And if y'all have any other questions y'all would like to ask them, if you'll just get the questions to Morgan, she'll get you in touch with them. And thank you. Any other questions? We adjourned.